She shouted at him, blamed him, even threatened to have him removed from the plane. But when this young guy calmly called his uncle, the flight didn't just stall, it never left the ground. Malik Johnson wasn't looking for attention at the age of 16. He thought a great trip would be simple, just board the plane, take his seat, pull out his playlist, and zone out until he arrived. However, that morning at Los Angeles International Airport, something felt off right from the start. Not in a dramatic way, just odd looks and unspoken tension. A gate agent who didn't return his smile. Still, Malik kept his cool. Just like his grandma had taught him, don't give people reasons to judge you. She always told him to rise above their expectations. He had just spent a peaceful week with her in San Bernardino, helping her recover from knee surgery, running errands, tending to her garden, and even assisting her with the new remote control. Nothing extravagant, just being there. The kind of visit that made his mom proud. His flight back to Atlanta had a layover in Dallas, and this segment, from Los Angeles to Dallas, was supposed to be the quick one. But it was about to take longer than he could have imagined. As he stepped onto the plane, boarding pass in hand, Malik glanced at his seat. 16A, a window seat, just right. He loved watching the plane take off, but when he reached row 16, there was already a guy. In 16A, headphones in, half asleep. Malik paused for a moment, double-checked his ticket, then turned around. A flight attendant was walking toward him, looking around 50, with tightly pinned blonde hair and a silver name tag that read M. Thompson. "Excuse me, ma'am," Malik said, keeping his tone steady. "I think someone is in my seat. I'm 16A. She didn't even look at his ticket. "That's not your seat," she snapped. "You're supposed to be in the back." He blinked, confused. "No, I was assigned 16A by the app." "There was a change at the gate." "You can verify," she interrupted, raising her voice. "Don't argue back. I don't care what some app says. Just go sit where you're told." Passengers nearby glanced up. One man raised an eyebrow. A woman clutched her bag tighter. No one spoke up. Malik took a deep breath. He'd been in awkward situations before, but this felt different, not just dismissive, like she didn't even see him as a person, as if he were just a problem to be shuffled away. "Please," he said again, keeping his tone calm. "I think there's a mix-up. Can you scan the ticket?" "I said go sit in the back or I'll have you removed," she shot back. Her voice was loud now, too loud. He surveyed the area. Faces were watching, phones were out, but still silence. One kid across the aisle stared wide-eyed. An older woman whispered to the man beside her. Malik's heart raced, not from fear, but from embarrassment and irritation. He wasn't doing anything wrong, he knew that. But why did it suddenly feel like he had to defend his right to be there? He pulled out his phone, opened the airline app, and held it up. "It shows 16A, he said, showing her the screen. Thompson didn't look. She crossed her arms and stepped closer. "Are you refusing to follow a crew member's instructions? Because that's a federal offense." That's when something clicked inside Malik. Not anger, just determination. He reached into his backpack, pulled out his phone again, and dialed Uncle Ray. "I need your help," he said when the call connected. Once that call went through, the entire atmosphere of the flight began to shift. "Tell me everything," Ray Johnson said through the phone, his voice direct, calm, and already in action. Malik didn't need to say much, just the essentials. "She's yelling, told me to sit in the back, won't check my boarding pass. People are watching. I haven't raised my voice at all." From the row behind him, someone muttered, "Just let the kid sit down already." Malik remained standing, phone in one hand, boarding pass in the other. Flight attendant M. Thompson stepped closer, preparing for a confrontation. "Is that a phone call?" she asked sharply. Malik nodded. "You're not allowed to use your phone during boarding. Hang up." He didn't even flinch. "I'm talking to my lawyer." That caught her off guard for just a moment. "Who's your lawyer?" she asked, her tone thick with skepticism, as if trying to catch him in a lie. Ray spoke up through the speaker. Ray Johnson, Civil Rights Division. You might want to think twice before escalating this. Thompson's eyes narrowed, but she didn't respond directly. Instead, she turned toward the front of the plane. Captain, I need someone removed from 16A. Passenger is non-compliant and refusing orders. A low murmur spread through the cabin. Malik heard it. Everyone did. Someone near the window leaned forward. Wait, he hasn't even taken his seat yet. Another voice chimed in. This isn't right, he's just standing. There? A woman across the aisle finally spoke louder. I saw it, she said calmly. Thompson spun around. Ma'am, please don't get involved. No, the woman replied. Not this time. Malik turned slightly, holding the phone, closer to his mouth. Uncle Ray, people are starting to talk. Someone's recording. Good, Ray said. Tell them to keep recording. I'm contacting the airline right now. What's the flight number? Malik read it from the placard above the seat. Row B, AE 43, 112 to Dallas. Got it. Stay calm. Say nothing else to her. You've done enough. Thompson was now talking into her own walkie-talkie, her eyes darting. Between Malik and the front of the plane. Her voice had lowered, but she glared at Malik every few seconds, like he was a ticking clock she couldn't control. And during all this, Malik stood there, not yelling, not angry, just waiting to be treated like a human being. An older male flight attendant approached cautiously, grey hair, badge reading G. Porter. He didn't carry the same hostility. If anything, he seemed uncomfortable. Son, he said quietly, can I see your boarding pass? Malik handed it over without saying a word. Porter scanned it, then looked at the screen on his device. His eyebrows raised slightly, but he didn't say anything. After a few seconds, he declared, You're in the right seat. There was a reassignment at the gate. Thompson had heard it too. She reacted quickly. That can't be right. She said, 16A, the manifest still shows a different name. No, Porter interrupted, still reading. His name is there now. It was a last-minute change. It's in the system. The silence that followed felt heavier than all. The murmuring before. Malik didn't say anything. He didn't smile. He didn't even look satisfied. He just moved to the side, sat down in 16A, and kept his phone in his lap. Thompson turned and marched toward the galley. A few passengers leaned into the aisle, eager to catch the moment. Someone whispered, She's going to regret this. Malik's heart was still racing, but he forced himself to breathe slowly. He texted his uncle, They see it now. Ray texted back, Good, let me handle the rest. But even as Malik settled into his seat, things were already shifting behind the scenes, and this flight wasn't going anywhere just yet. Back in his office in San Francisco, Ray Johnson was pacing, Bluetooth in one ear, laptop open. His assistant, Mia, was pulling up flight data, company contacts, legal jargon. Ray wasted no time. He never did. He'd spent years building a reputation that made institutions nervous when they heard his name. Civil rights wasn't just his job. It was personal. And this, a 16-year-old boy, his nephew, targeted before takeoff, this wasn't going to be brushed aside. Get me a direct contact at Skyway Airlines legal department, he instructed Mia. Skip the PR line. Already on it, she replied, headset on. Back on the plane, Malik gazed out the window, fingers still gripping his phone. His stomach had settled a bit, but his mind kept replaying the moment over and over. He wasn't angry, not yet, just exhausted and bewildered. Why did it always seem like others expected him to shrink? The man sitting next to him, in his 40s, wearing a faded baseball cap and crossed arms, shifted slightly and said without looking at him, That woman's out of line. Malik glanced at him, surprised. She came in hard for no reason. The man added, You were polite. Thanks. Malik said quietly. A few rows ahead, someone stood, a young woman in a yellow hoodie. She raised her voice enough for the surrounding rows to hear. "Hey, if anyone else saw what just happened, save your recordings. Don't delete them, the truth matters." Several phones lifted higher, voices murmured in agreement. Up front, Thompson was still on the intercom phone. Her tone had dropped, uncertain. The pilot had been informed of a disruption, and she had used the words non-compliant passenger more than once, but she was no longer in control of the narrative. The cabin had witnessed too much. Meanwhile, Ray had Skyway Airlines' legal team on the line. A junior counsel responded, sounding mildly uninterested until Ray said his full name. That changed the atmosphere. "This is about a passenger on BE 4312, currently taxiing out of Los Angeles," Ray stated. "My client, my nephew Malik Johnson, was just publicly confronted, misrepresented and humiliated by one of your crew members, Monsieur Thompson. I have multiple witnesses, live recordings and passenger confirmations. Your employee refused to verify his boarding information, attempted to relocate him without justification, and threatened federal charges." The line went silent for a moment. "I'm not fully briefed on this." "No, you're not," Ray replied. "But you will be. Because if that plane takes off with her still on it and no official intervention, your airline will face a civil action before the landing gear even touches the ground." The silence extended again. "I'll notify the captain," the lawyer said, his tone now clipped. "Please hold." Back on the plane, something was clearly happening. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and professional. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been made aware of an issue that needs addressing before departure. We'll be returning to the gate shortly. Please remain seated." A collective ripple passed through the cabin. Passengers exchanged glances. Some were surprised, others nodded knowingly. Malik leaned back, watching as the plane slowly turned away from the runway. Across the aisle, a flight attendant, not Thompson, approached him. Younger, brown-skinned, visibly anxious. She knelt beside his row, lowering her voice. "I just want to say I saw what happened and I'm sorry. That shouldn't have happened to you." Malik gave a small nod. "Thank you." She hesitated, then added, "You handled it better than most adults would have." Malik didn't respond. He was still processing, trying to balance between staying composed and just wanting to cry. Not from weakness, but from being fed up. With moments like this, the plane was almost back at the gate when Ray's call buzzed through again. "She's being pulled," he said flatly. "They're not allowing her to fly. They know they messed up. Just sit tight." But while Malik remained calm, the flight crew was now in disarray, and what came next would turn this delay into national news. As the plane rolled to a stop at the gate, the cabin lights brightened. No one was getting up yet, but the energy had shifted. You could sense it, the way passengers whispered with more intent now, the steady hum of curiosity turning into something sharper. The door opened. 2 airport security officers stepped on board, closely followed by a Skyway Airlines supervisor in a navy blazer, her face tight with urgency, eyes scanning the rows before landing on Malik, then Thompson. "Miss Thompson," the supervisor said, voice clipped, "we need to speak with you at the front of the cabin." Thompson tried to maintain a neutral expression, but her mouth twitched as she stood and followed them up the aisle. As she passed Malik's row, she didn't glance at him, not once. From behind him, the woman in the yellow hoodie muttered, "About time." Passengers watched in silence. Some filmed, others simply observed, phones ready but not raised, waiting to see what would happen next. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, the supervisor returned alone. This time, she approached Malik. "Mr. Johnson," she began, kneeling so she wasn't towering over him, "we sincerely apologize for what occurred. I want you to know that the flight attendant involved will not be continuing this trip. You did nothing wrong." Malik met her gaze. "Why did it take a phone call for me to be heard?" The question lingered in the air. She swallowed. "Sometimes it takes one voice to wake everyone else up." Before she could elaborate, the captain stepped into the cabin and spoke to the passengers over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. We are addressing a personnel issue and will resume boarding shortly. If you need to stretch, feel free to do so now, but please stay near your assigned seats." No one moved. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. The man next to Malik leaned toward him again. "You've got guts, kid. I've seen grown men fold in situations like that." Malik didn't reply, but he appreciated the compliment. Then came the next surprise. A flight attendant approached Malik once more, this time with a seat reassignment slip. "Mr. Johnson," she said in a softer tone, "we'd like to move you to seat 3A for the rest of the flight. First class." Malik blinked. "I'm fine here." "It's not a reward," she added quickly. "It's just quieter, and we thought you might appreciate some space." He looked at her, then at the empty first-class section visible through the curtain. Part of him wanted to stay in 16A to make a statement, but he also felt the weight of all the stares, all the quiet assumptions pressing in. He stood up. As he walked forward, passengers in his section didn't just watch. A few nodded, subtle but supportive. The woman in the yellow hoodie smiled at him. A young man raised a fist at his chest, not high, just enough. He took his seat in 3A and sat still, backpack at his feet. From this position, he could see the entire plane. It felt smaller now, more manageable, but not any simpler. Back in San Francisco, Ray watched as the first viral post emerged. A video with over 15,000 views in 10 minutes. He shook his head. "They're going to feel this one." Mia looked up from her desk. "Do you want me to send an official statement?" "Not yet," he replied. "Let it simmer." But as the plane prepared for takeoff again, the real storm wasn't behind them. It was just starting to hit the public eye. The moment Malik's story hit the internet, the temperature outside the plane was the least of anyone's worries. What began as a trickle of posts from scattered passengers turned into a deluge. Within the hour, videos, tweets, screenshots of the boarding pass app, all documenting the same story from different perspectives. A teen falsely accused, a flight attendant yelling, a quiet refusal to back down, and a phone call that flipped the script. In seat 3A, Malik didn't yet know how viral it had become. His phone buzzed non-stop, but he ignored it, not out of pride. He just didn't know what to say. The whole situation still didn't feel real. A flight attendant offered him water. He thanked her. She lingered for a moment, as if wanting to say something more, but didn't. She just gave a small nod and walked away. The flight finally took off, nearly 2 hours behind schedule. In the EU terminal, more than a few people were watching their screens, witnessing a story unfold in real time, while the very subject of it was 30,000 feet above them. By the time Malik landed in Dallas, he had over 50 unread texts. His mom had called 5 times. His older cousin sent him a screenshot of an article from a local paper already covering the story. Passengers' video sparks debate over airline, racial bias. At the gate, a Skyway Airlines representative awaited him, a woman in her 30s with a name badge clipped tightly and a PR smile that barely held. "Mr. Johnson," she said as he stepped into the terminal, "we'd like to extend our sincerest apologies and offer you a complimentary voucher for future flights." Malik blinked at her. "That's it?" She shifted slightly, still smiling. "We're also reviewing internal protocols." He let that sit for a moment, then asked, "Did you watch the video?" She paused. "Yes." "And you're still standing here offering me a voucher like that fixes something?" The smile cracked a little. "We're taking this very seriously. I assure you. Malik simply nodded, not out of agreement. He was done giving people more than they gave him. Back in San Francisco, Ray declined every interview request. He didn't need the spotlight. He wanted accountability. Skyway Airlines released a statement, polished corporate speak full of strategic language. They referred to it as a miscommunication, promised to review internal conduct protocols, and thanked Malik Johnson for his grace and cooperation. No apology, no name, no accountability. Ray wrote a response himself and published it through a legal journal. What happened to my nephew was not a miscommunication. It was a clear reflection of who receives the benefit of the doubt and who does not. It was a reminder that too many young black boys are treated like threats before they even speak. My nephew was calm, polite, patient. That did not protect him. What protected him was a phone call, and that should disturb every single person reading this. The piece went viral in less than 24 hours. Skyway Airlines stock dipped the following morning. Meanwhile, Malik attempted to live a normal life, but people wouldn't let him. He was now the kid from the plane, whether he wanted to be or not. Still, something stuck with him, something he hadn't anticipated. The support, not just from friends and family, but from strangers, people from other states, other kids his age, adults who saw their own stories reflected in his silence. Letters started arriving in the mail, handwritten notes. A woman in Ohio wrote, "My son is only 12, and I pray he grows up with the same strength you displayed." A retired teacher from Michigan wrote, "You didn't just speak up, you showed up. That matters." Malik didn't respond to all of them. He didn't know what to say yet, but he kept the letters in a box under his bed. But while others were busy labeling him a hero, Malik was just beginning to grasp what it meant to carry a story that didn't seem like it was ever supposed to be his. A few weeks after the incident, life began to move again. Malik was no longer in the headlines. News cycles shifted. The social media noise faded. But the story remained with people, the ones who truly understood it for what it was. At school, Malik learned to walk through the hallways without reacting to whispers. He concentrated on his classes, kept showing up, kept doing the work. His GPA hadn't dropped, even though the pressure had nearly broken his focus more than once. What surprised him the most were the quiet conversations, not the performative ones, the genuine ones. One day in history class, a kid he barely knew tapped him on the shoulder after everyone else had left. "I was on a flight last weekend," he confessed. "A guy behind me started yelling about his seat, and the flight attendant didn't say a word, just smiled and helped him." Malik didn't respond. "I thought of you the entire time," the kid added. Another day, a janitor, Mr. Davis, who'd worked at the school for years, caught Malik by the vending machines. "You made me proud, young man. Most people don't stay calm when the fire's right in their face." Malik looked up. It didn't feel like calm. It felt like holding his breath. Mr. Davis nodded. "Still counts." Malik started writing again. Nothing major, just in a notebook, journaling to get thoughts out of his head so they wouldn't keep circling. Sometimes he wrote about that day, sometimes he didn't, but it helped. Ray checked in each week. "Do you want to go public with..." Still, the weight of it didn't disappear. Being the kid who made the call came with something heavier than attention, expectation. People wanted him to speak, to lead, to carry, but he wasn't a movement. He was a teenager trying to graduate and maybe attend Morehouse like his uncle. And yet he couldn't ignore how things had shifted, not just for him, but for those who saw themselves in him. So one night, sitting in his room, Malik opened a new blank document on his laptop and typed, "Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stay calm when someone wants you to break." He didn't post it. He just saved it for now. Because maybe the lesson wasn't about turning into a leader overnight. Maybe it was about recognizing what you carry, how you carry it, and understanding you're not alone. Maybe it was about having someone to call and being someone others can reach out to when they need to. Maybe it was about speaking up, even when your voice trembles, and showing that silence can still possess power if it's filled with truth. People claimed Malik changed that day, but he hadn't. He'd simply revealed something the world didn't. Expect to see, not anger, not defiance, just quiet, steady clarity in the face of ignorance. And sometimes that's enough to shake the foundations. If you've read this far, thank you. Stories like Malik's happen more often than we realize, but not everyone has someone like Ray on the other end of the line. If this story resonated with you, share it, discuss it. Ask yourself how you'd react if it happened in front of you. Because sometimes change starts with who decides to stand or sit in the right seat. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.